Cari amici di Cultura Creativa, oggi abbiamo un ospite speciale, Gabrielle Goliath, un'artista sudafricana che espone in questi giorni qui alla Galleria di Raffaella Cortese a Milano, ma anche a Venezia in una venue fuori biennale molto affascinante e anche molto discussa. Cerchiamo di capire insieme a lei la sua ricerca, questo ultimo ciclo di lavori in un momento molto complesso per il mondo e anche per l'arte contemporanea. Gabrielle, thank you very much for joining today.
It's wonderful.
Let's start from the very beginning. You were born in South Africa and you have an approach with the art that used to tend to mix conceptual art, but also expressionism, oil and painting, but also pencil, different materials, but with a strong focus on the human rights, on the feminism. I would say supporting minorities and highlighting minorities, especially in this very incredible moment that we're living worldwide, full of wars that we never expected a few years ago. But probably being born in South Africa made you aware of the possibility of danger in many shapes of the social reality. When you began, which are your references in the art world, and when this journey started, it was something that you enjoyed very young, or no?
Well, whenever I get asked that question, I tend to be provocative in that.
Please.
I don't necessarily think I became an artist when I studied in the academy or in university. I think I was born an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And why I say that is because when I think about the influences in my practice, they're very much around the quotidian, intimate life, home life, the familial, ordinary everyday life practices, reading, music, art within the home, within conversations with family, cooking, food. And these are the kinds of lived experiences that inform my work, my art. And so I believe that is what I do as an artist, and that is what my practice is tethered to. And of course, as you say, being from South Africa, growing up as a young brown child, as a woman of color, during apartheid in South Africa, contending with all these difficult histories that continue to make possible, as you say, this impossibly devastating world that we live in today.
I had a chance to visit your country in 2010 because it was the inauguration of the World Cup, so with all the new stadiums, and we were invited as journalists by the Minister of Tourism and Culture of South Africa. And we traveled around Johannesburg, Durban and Cape Town. And they wanted us to see only, obviously, the shining part of your country, but it was impossible not to notice also something that wasn't aligned with the narration of the minister. And it was very impressive, according to me, to face a country that, of course, is changing a lot after Mandela and so on, but still, maybe who has the power change, but doesn't change the dynamic of power and poverty. According to you, is it evolving, or is it in a way always the same? I don't know how to, if I was
yes. Well,
right
I
or
think
not.
we think of evolution or progress as a straight linear line. And I think we need to consider that more carefully. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 5 steps back.
Right.
It's like healing. Healing is never a complete process. And this is something that a country like South Africa, that is contending with a very long history of slavery, of colonialism, of apartheid.
500 years.
Exactly. And only so many decades of democracy. So I think that sometimes change is not always as
Linear.
as linear or as spectacular as we might want it to be, and not as quick. It's slower work, it's more incremental, and it happens in small ways. And this is even what my own art has taught me. Sometimes it's not about the numbers of those people who come to your work. Sometimes it's one conversation, somebody messaging you in private via email or on Instagram to share something. So I think that in many respects, a country like South Africa, change is happening, but in small ways, in intimate ways, and sometimes more slowly. But in terms of, if we consider this concept of thinking of post-apartheid, the post is not always necessarily, it's kind of a fallacy. We've got to think about how do those difficult histories still continue in our contemporary moment.
Coming to your artworks, and especially this new series of oil paintings, there's a lot of nudity. There are very material paintings with oil on canvas, and I can see in that a lot of abstract expressionism, something coming from the German style, I mean, of the early 30s and 40s, something of Baselitz, but also something that is purely African in a way. I don't know why, but it's related. It's like a washing machine in your brain where you put inside all different references, and then it comes out. How it is your approaching creating art? You think before, or it comes out just when you're painting?
Well, I think it's both. But with my practice, it's been many years of thinking, reading, writing, speaking with others. Practices like painting and drawing have been bedrock to my practice. It's something I've sustained through all the years. But of course, in thinking, conceptually, politically, materially, affectively, that's a big part of what I do and how I think.
Are these real subjects or?
Yes.
Yes.
So many of the subjects within these 2 rooms are individuals who are from my community, who I've invited into my studio, who I've asked them to gift themselves to this work, to presence themselves in the work. And of course, that's really important to consider when one thinks of the history of imaging the nude, the canon, troubling that. These are not simply passive, silent subjects, but these are friends who come into my space and gift themselves to the work. And of course, this is a particular community. These are Black, brown, femme, queer, trans, indigenous individuals.
It's a very tough period for these minorities, not only South Africa, but all over the world. Did you imagine a few years ago that something similar would be possible? I mean, we have a President of the United States of America that overcome any right issue of international rights or social rights, and this is like a stain that is enlarging worldwide in many countries that we didn't expect to be so wild in the approach of the rights. As an artist, how do you? I mean, you always probably put the things in your research. Now these are crucial and contemporary.
Yes, we are witnessing exceptional times, but I think it is to consider a much longer history of precarity, of difficulty, that is deeply entangled with this present moment. So I am always grappling with this in the present moment, but also in considering my entire practice. There's a much longer historical moment to account for. But what are the particularities of this moment? I think it's to draw out those specificities of, as you say, with these particular heads of state and their nefarious, draconian ways, who is rendered vulnerable, disposable, violable, killable, rapeable. This is something that my work is really grappling with all the time.
This is related to the issue of the South African pavilion in the Venice Biennale also. What happened, basically, if you can resume to us?
Well, what happened was that our Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, who is he and his party, their specific party agenda is pro-Israeli, which is contra the national stance in our country, which is pro-Palestine. And of course, there's a long history of this that dates back to apartheid in South Africa. And of course, the extraordinary precedent that's been set by our legal team heading up the case at the ICJ of charges of genocide against Israel. This case, of course, is ongoing. So when I was elected unanimously by an independent committee to represent South Africa at the pavilion, at that moment, there were many people that would not have known about this because it was held under embargo, it was confidential, it would only be publicly announced in January. Somehow my proposal was leaked to the minister, and he took exception to the fact that an aspect of the work addresses Palestinian life. And he made very clear that if I did not remove this aspect of the work, I could do the others. I could mourn Nama over Herero life. I could mourn black femme South African lives, but I could not mourn Hiba Abu Nada, a Palestinian poet. And of course, this revealed, as I said, his particular party's stance on Israel. And really the threat was that if I did not remove this aspect, I'd be cancelled. And ultimately I refused, of course, to change the work, and the pavilion was cancelled.
The pavilion will be closed, so, or no?
It will be closed. I had an extraordinary team, legal team, led by advocate Adela Hassim, who attempted to reinstate the pavilion, but of course we lost the case. Our case was dismissed. And so we missed all the Biennale Foundation's deadlines. But the case continues, the appeal continues. They're continuing to appeal what the minister has done because, of course, they recognize what a dangerous precedent he has set. Because not only in relation to apartheid era censorship laws, but of course what is happening quite widely throughout the world to many people. Many people are getting censored, cancelled, quietly dismissed, swept aside. And so they recognize that we cannot simply accept his interference and gross censorship and of freedom of expression. This is ultimately what we're arguing. So we're living in a moment, as you say, where we really need to attend to the increasingly imperiled nature of language, what we can say, who can say it, can you speak it out? Are you too scared to? Do you start to self-regulate your own words because you're afraid?
Yeah.
And so this is something that we're trying to fight and refuse.
People in many countries in the world in that specific moment are probably a lot afraid of protesting, and also in the US, it's becoming dangerous to protest in the street. And that was something that we didn't imagine, really. in the recent past. We always used to say that the artist has this possibility to see the future or to define the future. If we think to the artists of the past, I mean, in the Renaissance or in other period, the artist always has some quality to see things that maybe not people don't see, but they're too busy doing other things, and maybe they don't stay steady and reflect of what's going on. What do you think about this protesting and talking and be present in difficult times? It's an urgency that it's a call that we must hear in this moment, or no, or maybe it's better to wait and see what's going on. According to you, I mean, I see you as an active, artist on the field. You're not scared?
Of course I am. I am hesitant to impose on others how they should protest.
Okay.
And I think we need to think carefully about what is protest, what is activism. It's different for all of us.
Yeah. Everybody has his main focus, probably, no?
Exactly. And we need to recognize the precarity that so many people face. As you say, so often when someone has protested, it's led to them losing their job, being defunded, having their visas revoked, so many other things. So I think it is about each and every single one of us finding ways in which we feel that we can participate or be active, as you say. There isn't a singular liberatory masculinist register of protest out in the streets putting your life on the line. I don't think that's a model that everybody has to fulfill. But we can think of this as a moment, I believe, to consider how we can participate in relation to one another, in community. Think about how we might build up infrastructures of care for one another, of support. I think in this time where it feels like it's very divisive, as they say, very polarizing, fractured, how do we think about coming together, supporting one another? And sometimes that can be in such small ways.
You talk very often about this sense of community, and you ask also the people to become a community when they look at your artworks. This is about the last question, do you want the people that will enjoy this show and the Venice show read something before seeing the artworks, or just enjoying and putting the emotional side immediately? What do you think about that?
Yes.
Because maybe somebody can focus only on the style, on the nudity, on something, but usually my friend Alessandro Rabottini, it's a curator here in Italy, always reminds me, contemporary art is important for the people because make the people think, make the people reflect, because they don't understand immediately what they're seeing, and so they're starting to ask themselves questions, and probably that's the role of the contemporary art. What do you think?
Yes.
It's the same for you.
Well, for me, I've always felt, this is very personal, but I've always felt that contemporary art should be radical, difficult, demanding. So yes, if someone comes to my work, I want them to read about it, because they're not just coming to aesthetic representations of nudes. These are radiating sights. And I also like to think about troubling that relationship of coming as a removed viewer. What does it mean to not only consume, with that remove, but to actually come and, as you say, participate in community, in relation, whether it be with these paintings or in a performance like Elegy that asks you to participate in a work of mourning. Similarly, these paintings are not just static images on the wall. they too are inviting you into a different kind of encounter.
Gabrielle, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Giacomo.